So I want to share some games that totally blew me away. The kind you just don't see coming. Honestly, when they first dropped, I wasn't even thinking about picking them up. But you know how it is, sometimes that gamer impulse just hits you hard. Despite that, I seriously underestimated how addictive they're gonna be, sucking me in for hours upon hours, and every minute was totally worth it. If you're wondering what hidden gems I'm talking about, stick around for the whole video. And hey, if you haven't already, hitting that subscribe button would mean a lot to me. Anyway, let's jump right in and get started. Starting off at number 10, it's Sea of Solitude, and this one got a good reviews on Steam. When you start playing it, I guess you can kind of see why. The storytelling's very on the nose, the metaphor is pretty obvious, but as a whole, I left the game feeling pretty good about it. It's not a total disaster or anything, just rough around the edges. That very clear mental illness analogy is a big thing for a lot of game reviewers. I mean, okay, I get it. On the surface, the game looks like it's another one of those walking simulators about a fairly predictable subject, but keep at it. And it actually does reveal itself to be more than the sum of its parts. The story is strangely engaging, even if it is predictable. Look, it turns into a big gray blob whenever the game wants to talk about depression. The game's stuff about relationships and how people become dysfunctional is a little more interesting than the standard stuff from this brand of indie game. Of course, presenting those relationship issues through monster metaphors makes them even easier to understand, but some of the depictions are compelling. This guy representing an overly possessive boyfriend, for example. I think the game mechanics themselves are pretty solid too. It's not the most challenging experience, but there are actually stakes in the story, unlike most games like this, which are about quietly resolving issues the whole way through. Sea of Solitude has a much more adversarial vibe to the whole thing, which makes it stand out a little bit, even if some of it is just more metaphorical stuff. I know I'm spending a lot of time on the story, but that's because it's totally worth it. If you haven't checked this one out yet, you definitely should. And yeah, this is available on almost every platform. Moving on to number 9, we have Mirror's Edge. Look, everybody loves Mirror's Edge. But remember, when this game first came out, every contrarian gaming take artist was out to get it. A game that sacrifices shooting in favor of platforming, that's a hard one to sell to a lot of people. Review scores back then were pretty mixed. I think most of these people were expecting to play Assassin's Creed mixed with Call of Duty, I don't know. But instead they got something like a first-person platformer, an uncompromising one at that. It doesn't really put its best foot forward either. The first level, the tutorial stages, doesn't do a whole lot to sell the thrills that this thing offers. First few hours or so really didn't sell me at all on this, but once the game really started to cut loose, the imaginative levels, incredible art style, there was a lot of jumping in, and combat is never fun, but at least you can do some jumping, and I don't know, it's not groundbreaking. When it really embraces the parkour and lets you do things the hard way, like the things you do on standard way can feel amazing, euphoria-producing moments, obviously. When you start to figure out the second level strategizing, you can approach levels where it seems like you can't, but you can. The checkpoint before, that lets you find a much more involved way. Mirror's Edge is really only good when you know what you're doing, and when the game lets you improvise a little, which you have to. It's not a strategy that pays off quickly. There's a bit of a learning curve bought of it though, for as short as it is, Mirror's Edge is one that stays with you because of the fact nothing else is really like it. Yes, there was a sequel, and I think it's a mid-game comparing to the original one. Anyway, try Mirror's Edge. It's kind of an old game, but it's still playable and can surely par with today's standards. And number 8, it's Superliminal, a first-person indie puzzle game by the numbers. You can tell what it's going for and what its inspirations are as soon as you start playing. Reminiscent very much so of Portal. Yeah, it has its twist, but it's pretty clear what it's doing. You manipulate the world with perspective, you pick something up, you move it, and the size can change or even the shape, depending how you look at it. It's a cool mechanic for sure, but it's not like other games haven't tried it before, and also it's just not easy on a practical level. It's rough around the edges, there's all sorts of complicated stuff going on here under the hood, and with that in mind, the game's really impressive. My low expectations really came in with the narrative though. It's not exactly treading new ground here. You wakes up in a surreal dream world, a science voice on the speaker making fun of you for being a test rat. It's not exactly Portal levels, it's not groundbreaking, right? I mean, that's pretty low-hanging fruit. Portal obviously got into mythology. I'm not gonna lie, it's a gimmick, but it's a good one, and I think that it accompanies the puzzles pretty well. It keeps you thinking outside, it keeps you off balance, it's a competent game that manages to not overstay its welcome. And I actually had a great time with it, so if you love some kind of puzzle games, this one is totally worth playing in my opinion. At number 7, we have Pentiment. There are skilled people over at Obsidian. I'm not going to slag them or anything, and they made Pentiment, so in that respect, obviously, it's a very competently made game and all that, but, I mean, come on, it's probably not one I'm normally going to K-long at or get long with. It's not a traditional game, it's more of an interactive novel, and not only that, the subject matter's really niche, like culturally niche. It's about the story of Andreas Mailer solving a murder mystery. It's set in an obscure time period, so the presentation isn't doing it any favors. It really feels like it should be a philosophical successor to another era in gaming, especially if you look at the art style. It takes some getting used to, but it does help that the dialogue and choices in the game are pretty stellar from the outset. It takes a while for the stilted art direction to stop being a hindrance to actually enjoying the game. Like when it really draws you in though, you're really in it. A lot of Pentiment's early going is wrapped up in setting up the world and characters in the small village that becomes the game's setting, but near the end of the first chapter, the game really kicks into gear, and that's when I realized this isn't just an art experiment or a tech demo for Obsidian's new technology or something. They actually put their whole heart into this thing. They went in and made cult classic level good material, stuff that had it been what sold a game that looked like this in the 90s would have been incredible back then. And yeah, playing this game is a blast. I'm not usually into this type of game, to be honest, but I was surprised to find myself hooked on it back then. Coming in next at number 6, we have Serious Sam Siberian Mayhem. I played the original Serious Sam game back in the day, and I had a pretty good time. Over the years, the Serious Sam games have become kind of a shadow of what they once were. 2 and 3 are inferior sequels that don't capture the originals in thrills at all. I even think 2 is an inferior sequel to the No One Lives Forever games. The more recent Serious Sam games have been utter crap, so when they released another one in 2022, I had to see how far this franchise fell. At first glance, I thought this was a totally new game, but it turns out this is actually an expansion for Serious Sam 4, the game I also essentially dislike, so that's a bad look from the outset. Instead of more of the samey stuff that doesn't thrill though, they got a mod team to put together some leftover unused levels or something. That sounds like a recipe for disaster. Against all odds, Serious Sam, Siberian Mayhem is actually alright. It's a weird one and very inconsistent, but that's kind of what makes it work. It's like the Sonic Generations of Serious Sam, except a lot shorter. Each of the only 5 levels is completely different from what came before. It's flashy and fast, and there's some real classic Serious Sam peaks to this game. There are parts that feel very Serious Sam 4, I won't lie. The last level, they throw something like 1 million enemies at you, frames per second go to 0. You can't really tell that it's bad because it's also fun as hell to mow down enemies. And a part that really boggles my mind is despite just being a standalone expansion, this game actually entertained me for a while. Moving on to number 5, it's by no means one of the best exclusive games on PS4, but the 2016 Ratchet and Clank Reboot's a game that's way better than it has any right to be. Remember, this game was made as a companion piece to the movie, and we all remember how well the movie turned out. Believe it or not though, the game has a lot in common with the movie, up to including the script violently sawing the legs out from under it at every opportunity because it became a baffling betrayal of the entire original trilogy of Ratchet and Clank games. Somehow in game form, none of the same problems have the same effect. It's a game that by all logic really shouldn't be any good, but somehow manages to be fairly impressive. Playing the original, then jumping right into this, it's kind of shocking how much better the reboot looks. It's like night and day, and there's a lot of original voice actors who return. The script is remarkably close to the original game before it completely goes off the rails, which is to State's detriment. But again, it's easier to swallow the game. I don't know exactly why, if I'm being completely honest. Is there nostalgia? Yeah, but I honestly think it's more tone. Cutscenes are significantly shorter, so there's not as much time to just sit there and marinate in the bad lines. But in terms of gameplay, the reboot is better than the original. They took the story and setting of the first game, but added a more polished mechanics from the newer games in there, and they made it look beautiful, I won't lie. I enjoyed the reboot when I really wasn't expecting much out of this thing at all. It remains maybe the only movie game to actually be worth a damn. Now, next on the list, we really have something unique here. It's Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy. On its surface, this game is every YouTuber bait game under the sun. Something designed entirely to frustrate young gamers and make them scream at their monitors while recording for their very thankful subscribers who enjoy their pain. A lot of people lump it in with stuff like I Am Bread and Goat Simulator, and it's not part of that genre, but it's also a game that is more sincere than its trolling on that surface. I think part of it is down to the narration reminding you of a university professor teaching you about philosophy. It's so dry and intonation-free that it transcends funny and just becomes strangely comforting. The weird, intentionally obtuse control scheme that's so clearly designed to make people mad was basically a gimmick that got old a few minutes, but somehow this game keeps rolling on in a way that a lot of other games in this genre don't. I mean, it's designed to look bad on purpose, but that's not entirely true. It's a little ugly to look at, but gets downright magical when you finally beat the game and the camera pans back to show you just how far you've climbed. I don't know. It's not easy to explain what makes Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy compelling because it's not exactly a normal video game. You just gotta play it to get it. Maybe it's the homesick syndrome, or we've got Stockholm syndrome, and our brain is basically tricked into thinking we like this self-critical, almost antagonistic joke game, or maybe actually it's pretty good. Moving to number 3, we have Hot Wheels Unleashed. I expected this game to be crap, I'm not gonna lie, but look, anytime we see a licensed kart racer game come out, it really sets the expectation meter pretty low. Turns out basically everyone who had anything to do with this game must have had an actual love for Hot Wheels because the attention to detail is ridiculous here. The developers behind this were totally the right ones to call, not some random licensed game outfit. I mean, these are the same people that made the LEGO line of racing games, which are also pretty good for the time. They're a talented mid-tier studio that had done some good racing games before, and in the right condition, they thrived on this license. The part about Hot Wheels that's compelling is something that some folks might not expect if you haven't played it. It's actually a great physics engine that brings the cars to life in a way I've really never seen before. There's some serious toys to life stuff going on here, like the weight, the speed, it all matches praise to everything about Hot Wheels, where there's a Hot Wheels car that does the same in real life, but it's on display in this game. It straddles the line between being arcade and simulation. Not intended to be a total sim, wanna be clear. I wouldn't have thought I'd cared for it and I'd be skidding along the orange tracks, but something about the game, maybe just driving around normal locations, I don't know, like a kitchen that makes you feel like you're in the racetrack like a kid again. Doesn't hurt that it's actually a well-made racing game on top of everything else. Like, I didn't expect to love it, but I do. At number 2 is Lies of P, a Souls-like game based on the story of Pinocchio. It sounds like a game specifically designed to make purists mad and also casual fans skeptical, all of whom comment nonsense on the internet, right? Now that we're a few years into the Souls-like trend and we've seen a lot of less than impressive attempts to recreate the magic of the Souls games, it's not surprising a lot of people were skeptical of Lies of P. The premise is laughable on its face and looks like other similar failed attempts by outsider studios to do their version of a FromSoft game. What fools everybody is just how good Lies of P actually ends up being. It's a legitimately great Souls-like with fantastic combat, interesting weapons, and fun bosses. Based on what's in the game, it doesn't feel anything like the hot meme game some detractors painted it as. The whole Pinocchio thing becomes irrelevant instead of just becoming a hindrance on the actual quality of the game. It just kind of ends up being a funny little afterthought like, oh yeah, this is supposed to be Pinocchio, huh? It really is its own story. It's a well-made game through and through, and they don't lean on worn-out Souls game tropes to an unhealthy degree. Look, it's not like we're talking remakes here. In some ways, it really does them one better. It has an actual story to tell. No offense to the way Souls games tell their stories, actually very fond of that. Sort of a background element. It's more about the vibe than the story. Lies of P doesn't do that, and in honesty, I was kind of skeptical of it. Half-levered or any of the mechanics, Lies is a mechanic in the game. It's all Pinocchio-I-fiped for a game with P in the title. Yeah, nailed it, manages to feel fresh when I was expecting it to feel completely derivative. That's an accomplishment in and of itself. And finally, at number 1, we have Mad Max. It's one of the most generic sounding games out there. An open world, Ubisoft-style game with a bunch of copy-paste enemy camps to clear out, icons as far as the eye can see. On paper, it kind of looks like a very by-the-numbers open world game, so I didn't have a lot of faith in it being an especially exciting game, and especially since this game came out the same day as Metal Gear Solid 5. But once you start playing, it's clear that not only is this a legit effort by Avalanche and not just some movie cash-in. It's a great game in its own right without really calling attention to itself. Mad Max is inventive in subtle ways. The vibe of the game is immaculate. It really captures the spirit of Mad Max without relying on the movies. It does its own kind of wasteland thing. It's tongue firmly in cheek, but never to be annoying. It's got a thumping soundtrack and fantastic sound design, and these elements may not sound like much, but matter so much when your central gameplay mechanic is driving for the entirety of the game. And man, does driving feel good. You smash into enemies, pieces flying everywhere, and it's so satisfying. This game doesn't get nearly enough credit for making driving fun because, I don't know, it's not that obviously doing something all that different, it just nails the fundamentals. Another thing it nails is exploration in one of the most desolate game worlds ever made. On paper, yes, this is a very Ubisoft-style open world, but it doesn't feel like one. It feels like an actual game world. Everything's placed naturally. It's not just a bunch of thing and rows everywhere to do, and that, I think, is one of the biggest accomplishments of Mad Max. It feels like a game world you are actually exploring, even if you're really just doing busy work. And yeah, I think that's all for today's video. If these games caught you off guard like they did me, drop a like and comment below. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.